Welcome back to One Life Radio here on 1190. This is Bernadette with Dr. Jeremy Webster, and we are going to talk about the 11 fad diets, the top 11 fad diets,
Maybe
the good, the
12.
bad, and the ugly of dieting. What do you think, guys?
And I even included one more. Last time, before we left, Danny mentioned that he wanted to talk about the grapefruit diet. So I added
the
that.
grapefruit
So
diet.
we've got a 12th. That'll be the last one we talk about.
I
though.
did that in the 80s. So top 11 fad diets.
Okay.
I've never heard of some of these.
What are we counting down from?
We're counting down. We're
counting down. Okay.
We've got okay, here's number one. Lemonade diet. Never heard of it.
You've heard of it by another name, the Master Cleanse.
Yeah, I guess I've
Okay.
sort of heard of that
So
one.
the idea of this is you mix lemonade and you mix cayenne pepper and maple syrup together. And that's what you drink for 3 days straight.
Oh, yeah. So
And that's all you have.
my friend, I won't say her name, she did that, and she said that she absolutely felt fabulous after the first couple of days.
I've heard people do, but not with lemonade, with other, with grapefruit juice or something like that, or orange juice. But does it matter?
I've never heard of it with anything other than lemon.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah, she took fresh squeezed lemon, cayenne pepper, I think a little bit of like maple syrup,
Maple
and then
syrup.
filtered water. And
That's
I'm
it.
telling you, she gained. I didn't think it was a good thing, and she gained
Okay.
the weight back.
Let's
and
hear from the expert then.
So
you
let's,
go.
yeah.
Why
So-
would you gain it back, doctor?
Well, it's touted as a cleanse, and in order to cleanse anything in your body, it has to go through the liver, and your liver has to do some work. For the liver to work, it takes lots and lots of protein for the liver to do its job. One of its jobs, which is detoxification. It's about 25 grams of protein is what the liver needs just by itself. So that doesn't include all the protein that the rest of your body needs to heal your body, to build your muscle tissue, your skin tissue, all of your other organs. That's just to make your liver function.
And what would 25 grams be, just to give the
Almost
audience a little bit of a...
Almost a chicken breast.
Okay, so a chicken breast a day.
A good serving. That's what your liver requires
At least.
by itself. No, that's what your liver requires by itself.
Oh, okay.
And that's not
Okay.
to make the rest of your body function. The rest of your body needs lots of protein too. A lot of your hormones are protein based. All of your neurotransmitters that I can think of off the top of my head are protein based. That's your brain chemistry working here. And then every tissue in your body is made of protein, and a lot of your chemical reactions in your body are driven by enzymes, which are also protein. You need tons of protein. So to completely eliminate protein from your diet and just drink this stuff for days on end is making your body basically crash.
Wow.
The only way your liver can possibly detoxify at this point is to break your muscle tissue down so that it can have that protein available for the liver to do its job. You're also going to break your joint tissue down. You're going to break your whole entire body down just to allow your liver to function like it's supposed to function.
Well, how about fasting? How long should you fast? Because some people do fast. I mean, is it just a day, 2 days before you
not
have
that
to?
long.
Okay.
Not that long.
Well, in
Basically
this
fast at
cleanse,
night.
if I'm not mistaken, this cleanse is normally 21 days. Isn't it a 21-day cleanse when people
I've
do
never
it?
heard of it that long.
Wow.
Typically shorter from what I understand.
That's how long my friend did it, 21 days.
21 days?
Yeah.
She probably lost a lot of weight, then she gained it all back. You
Yeah,
said?
she
And
did.
if you're gonna lose weight on this, it's gonna be almost all muscle, and you're gonna gain it back. You're gonna gain it back as fat because it's very hard to gain muscle back. It's easy to lose it. It's hard to gain it back. So you're gonna gain the weight back as fat, and you're gonna look awful when you're done.
Well, and I found it very interesting that she said that it made her feel euphoric almost, and I don't know if that's from having the power to withdraw from food, whatever you.
We shouldn't feel euphoric. That's probably a sign that something's wrong. When you starve yourself to death, you go into a state of euphoria. Your body releases chemicals so that you're not in pain. This is not a good thing.
It's not a good thing.
No, she starved herself to death, and she ate all of her muscle tissue, and now she's fatter than she was before, you say?
Yes.
There you go.
Yes.
That's my case.
Okay.
Yep.
Thumbs down for the
All right.
for
Thumbs
the
down on
lemonade
the
diet.
lemonade diet.
Next one.
Oh, okay, but a cleanse is good for a couple of days just to give your body maybe a couple of days
If it's
as long
done
as
right. If it's done
If
right.
it's
we
done
can
right.
go into cleansing if you want, but
We'll do
it
another
has-
show on
it has-
the
yeah, it has
proper
to
way
be,
to
it has to be done
cleanse.
right.
Okay, next on the list, Atkins Diet.
Right. Atkins Diet basically goes off the correct theory that insulin is a fat-storing hormone in your body. So the idea behind Atkins was, okay, if we reduce our body's need for insulin, we can reduce our body's fat storage capabilities, and maybe we can lose body fat that way. So they thought, well, what what can we do as far as a diet goes to reduce insulin? And they're like, well, the reason you make insulin is because your blood sugar goes up. So how does your blood sugar go up? Well, you eat carbohydrate-rich foods. You eat starchy foods and you eat sugary foods. That makes your blood sugar go up, and then you release insulin, and then you store fat real readily. So the idea was, let's reduce our carbohydrate load, our sugar or starch load. And then what happened was people started to lose a lot of weight. Their sugar went down. Their insulin level goes down because of that. And a lot of other things were happening that they found on top of this. That when your insulin goes down, you tend to have an increase in growth hormone and testosterone and things like that. So you were able to make lean muscle tissue very easily, and you also weren't storing fat very, very much. So people were losing body fat and gaining lean muscle tissue. So it's a pretty reasonable diet as far as that's concerned. The problem is the implementation is always not so great.
All right. You are listening to Dr. Jeremy Webster here on One Life Radio. You can find him at CompleteHealthDallas.com. That's CompleteHealthDallas.com. 972-735-0707. 972-735-0707. We will be back.
All righty. So anyway, let's go down to the next fad diet.
Okay. Well, are we done with the Atkins diet? Did we?
Well, I think
Is it still around, by the way? Are there still people practicing?
Oh, yeah. Of course, absolutely.
Because when did Atkins die?
In principle, when did he die?
Yeah.
Top of my head, I don't remember.
Because he died like a few years, somewhat recently. When I say 4 or 5 years ago,
five-ish years ago.
He died
at
from.
least.
Yeah.
Well,
he died from not eating any carbs. He went into shock from no bread.
Believe it or not, that's what everybody laughed at, or that's what, and it really had nothing to do with his diet, supposedly.
I know.
He slipped on the ice, hit his head, went into a coma, and died.
Yeah.
He was 190 pounds when he went to the hospital. When they gave him the IV with glucose, it puffed him up to 240 pounds.
Wow.
Well,
I will say this. Most of these fad diets, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, just like anything, bad things happen with good intentions. All these fad diets have good intentions.
Well, but intentions don't get you anywhere.
Right.
Either it's a sound principle or it's not. There's a very sound principle behind Atkins, very sound based on physiology. And if you follow it, if you execute it correctly, it can be a wonderful diet. If you do it improperly, it can still technically be Atkins, but it's going to be extremely unhealthy. Let me give you two examples. Diet 1, you eat a big piece of salmon, a big green salad loaded with olive oil, and a side of broccoli. This diet number 2, you eat 2 patties of sausage, some smoked cheese, and 3 strips of bacon. Which one is Atkins?
Well, both of them are.
Both of them are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which one is healthy?
Well, obviously the salmon.
Right.
The salmon and the green vegetables. But was it also something with colored vegetables, or was it just strictly? Because this was, 15 years ago or so, knew a guy that was on it, and he couldn't eat like carrots or couldn't eat certain vegetables.
Because carrots are high in carbohydrate.
Okay.
They're high in starch. So you have to eat low starchy vegetables.
Which are most of your green vegetables.
Yeah, your greens are low in carbohydrate. And this is basically what I recommend to most of my patients anyway. It's hey, get the starch, get the sugar out of your diet. We don't need all that. Eat the nutritious food.
Mm-hmm.
Don't eat the bacon and sausage as the bulk of your diet. You can maybe find a reasonably healthy sausage or natural, organic, nitrate-free sausage, MSG-free, and you can maybe have a little bit of that sometime, but it doesn't need to be the bulk of your diet.
Mm-hmm.
And, still get nutritious foods. And that's where the execution of Atkins went way awry. They weren't eating healthy food.
Well, I'm thinking, ultimately, and you can apply this to almost anything in life. Slow and steady wins the race. There is no get rich quick. There is no get thin quick. You have to do something that's sustainable.
Right. And you can't go without eating vegetables for a long period of time and expect to get good health results.
Exactly. Okay, so the next one on the list, and I don't know anything about this one, the South Beach diet.
Oh, that was huge, wasn't it? Like 5-6 years ago.
And what was that all about?
They basically differentiate between good fats and bad fats, and good carbs and bad carbs. So
that sounds reasonable.
It does sound reasonable. It's not horrible. We do need to focus a little bit more on eating better carbohydrates than the bad carbohydrates. Now, with that said, What they said was good carbohydrates are carbohydrates that are low in the glycemic index.
Okay.
And what this means, the glycemic index measures the availability or the rate in which the carbohydrate enters your system. So that doesn't necessarily mean much as far as how much impact it's going to have on your system. It just has to do with how quickly it enters your system. So here's an example. If you look at the glycemic index and see how quickly things enter your system, you might look at a food like pasta and then compare it to another food like broccoli, and they don't look that much different on the glycemic index. So the sugar from pasta doesn't enter your system that much quicker than the sugar from broccoli. So as far as the glycemic index goes, they're almost equal food. The problem is pasta has a whole ton of carbohydrate and broccoli has almost none. It has very little carbohydrate. So the impact on your system as far as the carbohydrate load that you're consuming is completely different between broccoli and pasta. So I don't like the glycemic index so much. If you look at the glycemic load, that's another indicator. It takes the glycemic index and then multiplies it by the amount of carbohydrate. That's, to me, is much more sensible. So, but they don't use that.
You know what's really interesting? I just popped this up on the internet as far as the South Beach Diet website. And real quickly, foods to enjoy and foods to avoid. Foods to enjoy on this diet, I had no idea. Boiled ham, Canadian bacon, canola oil, chicken breast, cheese. But fish, green vegetables, lunch meat, lean. But foods to avoid, alcohol. Well, I'm not going to be on that. But no, breads, of course, baked goods, of course. But fruits?
Again, their idea, it's almost like this diet was put together with some really good ideas, but the execution or the brains behind it, just there was no brains. There was no the good fats, like what you said, canola oil is a good fat. Cheese is a good fat.
Poultry is a food to avoid on this diet.
It's
Really?
It's silly. Canola oil. Canola oil comes from a grain. It's called a rapeseed, or it's a seed, not a grain, I guess. And it's extremely dry. You can't. You told us that. You can't press oil out of a rapeseed. It takes harsh chemicals and solvents to extract any oils. That's not an oil fit for human consumption. It happens to be high in omega-3s or omega-6s, unsaturated fats, but that doesn't mean that it's a healthy food necessarily.
And what do they, when they say, this canola oil, and I've been wanting to ask you this for weeks, if it's expeller pressed, is that what they say? Is that the good canola? If it's expeller pressed, does that give it the go ahead?
Maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't see any point in consuming canola oil. I really don't.
So you just thumbs down for canola oil, period. Okay. No matter how they press it or expel it or.
So the South Beach Diet, in principle, it's pretty good. Execution, absolutely horrible.
So many disclaimers to these diets, aren't there?
Oh, yeah.
Read the fine print.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay, let's talk about the Zone Diet.
Zone Diet. Barry Sears came up with the Zone Diet, and he came up with all these other zone books. There's now probably at least 10 different zones out there. You have the omega-3 zone. You have all these different zones.
Is it a popular? Does it have a popular following? A huge following?
Oh yeah, the zone.
Yeah, they got products on the shelves.
They're huge.
Oh, that's right, the Zone bars.
Yeah, that's where it came
Zone
from.
Bars. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So the idea behind the zone was you get in this
zone. You get in the zone.
You get in this zone where you're consuming certain ratios of proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. Approximately 30% of your calories from protein, 30% from fats, and 40% from carbohydrates. And that's just about it. There's a little bit more to it if you want to read the entire book, but you're basically going to come out, you're going to read this whole 2-inch thick book, and you're going to come out with what I just said.
Sounds like the old pie chart.
Yeah, kind of.
What we grew up, as far as the, you got your plate, and this is what you got your meats and cheeses or whatever. It's
typical
it
balanced
seems so
diet.
old school.
It doesn't differentiate between good fats, bad carbs, good protein. It doesn't talk too much about healthy food. And some foods are just simply healthier because they have nutrient values that help your metabolism and help your overall health. Others are pretty much void of nutrients, even though the ratios of these big macronutrients might be the same.
Well, and I just popped into my head, anybody out there that wants fresh squeezed organic, 100% organic, unpasteurized GEM juices, we sell them now at Adrift. You just pull up. There's 7 spots in front of Adrift, and you can jump in and get your fresh squeezed juice.
There you go.
Anytime.
And that's great to bring up because that's what you would call a nutrient-rich food.
Right.
Tons of nutrients in these foods, and that's what we want to get across is that you need to eat nutrient-rich foods. The zone diet might be great for some people. It might be wonderful. 30-30-40 might be perfect, but if you do genetic testing like I do and you test a person's requirements for fat intake and for carbohydrate intake, what you're going to find is some people need a lot more fat. They need to eat a little bit more like the Atkins style, much lower carbohydrate. Other people need a little bit higher carbohydrate. So it's all kind of dependent. You can try this 30-30-40 thing and it might work great, but that just means 30-30-40 is appropriate for you. It might not work so well for your neighbor.
All right, there they go. All right. So, all right, let's get back to the top 11 fad diets, the good, the bad, and the ugly of dieting. And there are some really ugly diets on here. Okay, I'm just going to jump down. I did not see this earlier. I can't even believe this. The Tapeworm Diet, really?
You know, when I was looking through just finding ideas about which diets to list on here.
What country is this from?
I kept seeing the Tapeworm Diet on all these fad diet lists.
You've got to be, it's not real.
I
It
don't
can't
know.
be real.
It might be real.
It's a joke. It's
might
just
be
a
real.
joke. It's got to be a joke. Okay, it's got to be.
Needless to say, don't do that one.
The Dukan Diet?
Now, this one's becoming real popular.
D-U-C-A-N or K-A-N, Dukan?
Dukan?
Okay.
This one is becoming really popular. Several of my patients ask me about it.
Really? So where's the name from?
It's this Dr. Dukan.
Okay, Dr. Dukan.
And it's this insane diet. It's okay. Your first phase, you do this. You eat only protein. You don't eat any You're not even allowed to eat vegetables. Okay. A diet that you strictly are not allowed to eat vegetables for certain phases, and then you have these other phases where you phase certain vegetables back in, but you can't have any fruit, and then you don't eat any nuts, and then you do this and you do that. And you have all these crazy phases that just have you going all over the place with your diet. It's ridiculous. If any diet says don't eat spinach or don't eat kale, then throw it out. Forget it. It's
and people are asking about it. What like I said earlier, slow and steady wins the race. Whether you're talking about getting rich or losing weight, it has to be sustainable. It just has to be.
If you can't do it long term, then short term probably isn't very smart either.
Okay. Well, I think I grew up on the Mediterranean diet. So tell me what the Mediterranean diet is.
You did not.
I did not. Okay.
No. You ate bread and pasta. That's not.
I ate a lot of salad.
Sure.
A lot of olives.
But you ate bread and pasta.
I did eat bread and pasta.
Okay, so that wouldn't be the Mediterranean. Mediterranean diet, it's kind of like that. But
and fresh fish, though. We ate a lot of fresh fish.
Yeah, fresh fish would be one of the things you try to eat in abundance. You eat a lot of olive oil. You eat good fats. You eat legumes. You eat, what else? Vegetables, fruits. You eat a little bit of moderate levels of dairy, moderate levels of wine, and not too much red meat. So that's basically your Mediterranean diet. Go to a Mediterranean buffet, and that's basically that style.
I was just going to ask you that. Mediterranean food. Mm-hmm. Thumbs up?
Oh, I love it.
I love it too.
Yeah,
I really do. And even some of these Mediterranean buffets, there's one that I go to every now and then where I live in Las Colinas. It seems so healthy.
Yeah.
When I leave there, I'm not feeling like I left like a Chinese buffet where it's like the MSG where I'm literally within 30 minutes tired.
Sure. Yeah. Well, you're having the MSG and the insulin resistance.
Yeah.
From all the noodles and
But
rice
it just seems like, it's kind of hard to find a place or a buffet type style that is healthy.
It is. And I think the Mediterranean places you can really eat pretty healthy, even from a buffet. I usually go in there, I'll get the parsley salad, I'll get some of the other the Greek salad, I'll get some of their other vegetable dishes. Usually they'll have a lot of things, mushrooms and beets and all kinds of. Load up on that, put some hummus, put some baba ganoush, which is eggplant paste. Mm-hmm. And then get a few pieces of meat.
Yeah, it sounds gross, but it really is
good.
No,
it's delicious.
Fish, chicken,
I love Greek food.
The lamb, whatever you prefer, and you've got a extremely balanced. Pour olive oil all over the whole thing. Healthy.
This is kind of going
delicious.
away from, somewhat away from it. But what about Indian food?
The problem with Indian food is they put a little bit too much sugar in a lot of their curry dishes.
Do they really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then there's a lot of bread, the naan bread,
a lot of bread.
And rice that go along with it. I eat a lot of Indian food, but I try to do just the meat and the vegetable dishes, which I love. And I stay away from the naan and the rice for the most part. Mm-hmm. A lot of Indians go in there and they just stay strictly to the vegetarian side, but they end up eating so much sugar and starch that it's not really healthy when you do that. But yeah, there's
worse alternatives than Indian food.
It could be worse.
Yeah.
Okay, and this is a very popular diet, the Paleo Diet. Tell us about that.
Right. Paleo diet basically says
It sounds like the way you eat.
Yeah, it is. It says it's basically eat the food that was available before man started inventing new food,
and genetically modifying it.
Before they started before they made this before they started processing food. There was no such thing as bread before man invented machines to grind grain. It didn't even exist. It was impossible to eat bread. So does that mean that bread is compatible? Would bread be compatible with the human physiology? Well, the theory behind the Paleo diet is that it's not. The man 5,000, 6,000, 10,000 years ago would have eaten the foods that were available to him to survive, and that's what the human physiology is compatible with. So vegetables were available, nuts and seeds were available, fruits were available, meat was available. Those are the things that man evolved on, or God created us to eat these foods because these are the foods that were available. Whether you're religious or more evolutionarily minded, it works either way.
Well, we are no longer the Neanderthal man. So, having said that,
I didn't say anything about Neanderthal.
Well, I know.
Human beings were around long before a grain mill was around.
Yeah, well, that's true. But okay, we're no longer cavemen.
But genetically, genetically, we're the same as we were 10,000 years ago.
Yeah, where are you going with this?
I'm going with this because there are people. Because I'm a reality check here. Okay, people love bread. And if you have to have something to substitute it because you're just jonesing for that piece of bread, okay?
I love bread.
What exactly?
I love
Everybody
rolls.
does.
I love
Everybody
rolls.
does. And the holidays are coming up, so I'm just trying to keep it real here. What is a good replacement? What is it? The Ezekiel bread? Do you give a thumbs up to that? That they, you know what I'm talking about? The sprouted. It's not really bread, but it's the closest thing you can get.
Or pita bread or something like that.
Ezekiel bread? No. Anticrust, please.
Sorry.
Yeah.
He's hardcore. See?
Well, bread is bread, right? For the most part.
It is.
Yeah.
And just because it's a different type of bread doesn't mean that it's compatible with the human physiology. You couldn't make sourdough bread 10,000 years ago either. You couldn't make Ezekiel bread. You couldn't make bread. You couldn't make pasta. Those things, it wasn't physically possible to even make those foods.
I understand.
Or consume those foods.
Right.
So from a paleo theory and thinking about what the human physiology is compatible with as far as the foods, it would be compatible with foods that are possible to eat. It probably wouldn't be compatible with foods that aren't even possible. So man then later invented other foods. That doesn't necessarily mean that the human physiology is really compatible. And if you look at a lot of the disease processes that are happening, a lot of it's because of these processed foods that we encounter. And I think it's a very reasonable theory or reasonable way to eat. Eat vegetables, fruits, nuts, seeds, and meat. You know, that's pretty reasonable. That's pretty healthy.
And if you gotta have a piece of bread, what do you do?
Then understand that it's not good for your health.
You know,
Understand, but on occasion,
it's like me. It's like me with my regular Coke or Dr. Pepper. I'll have one every now and then, and when I say one, maybe one a week.
But you're not fooling yourself
No, of
thinking that
course
it's
not.
good for your health.
Of course not.
And so don't fool yourself in
It's
thinking
my
that,
treat.
Don't fool yourself in thinking that bread's good for your health.
Yeah.
Because it's not.
Hey,
Hey,
If you
real
eat
quickly
it, that's
before
fine.
you're talking about seeds in this time of year.
hey, Jesus drank
Pumpkin-
bread. I mean, Jesus.
He broke bread.
He broke bread and drank wine.
What about pumpkin seeds?
Pumpkin
They're
seeds.
loaded in zinc.
Okay, so
and they're loaded in arginine, I believe it is. And if you
because this time of year there's pumpkin
if you
seeds
have
everywhere.
a tendency toward cold sores or herpes, it can bring out your herpes virus.
Bummer.
Yeah.
That's not cool.
But if you don't,
That's not
if you
cold
don't, they're really
sores.
rich
That's
in
a great
zinc.
way
So
to know
Yeah, that's
that can be a
on
good
that
food.
note, hey, everybody have a great Friday. Smoke them if you got them. If you're in Colorado, smoke them if you got them.
most people can get away with pumpkin seeds and not have a breakout, but some people do.
Oh my gosh! Wow. Okay.
And by the way, our winner was Gary Samples.
All right,
and we're going to
Gary.
be doing this every week
Friday, and
leading up to.
We're giving away a toy every Wednesday and every Friday because I want as many happy kids out there at Christmas time because you get one body, you get one mind, and you get one life. And I want a lot of happy kids out there to have a great Christmas. Have a great weekend, everyone. All right, so the top 11 fad diets. Last week we talked about Atkins, South Beach, Zone Diet, we had Mediterranean Diet, we did touch on the Paleo Diet. Any of those you want to, out of those, the ones that we've already covered, what's your favorite one of all of those, if you had to pick one?
Well, I think paleo, just because it's kind of the common sense type of diet. It says basically eat the foods that were available before man started inventing foods. That it makes so much sense.
Back to basics.
Back to basics. Man would have eaten meat. He would have eaten vegetables and fruit. He would have eaten nuts and seeds. Those are the foods that were available, and he would have eaten them in whole form, whole natural form. Or if you say, well, what about organic? I'd say the foods were organic back then. There was no pesticides. They were grown. Everything was naturally grown. So yeah, you want a natural / organic. You know, the way we achieve that today, we kind of need supplementation because you can't get foods exactly like they were 5,000 years ago or 10,000 years ago.
Thank goodness.
The soil. No. What I'm saying is the food isn't as good as it was then because there is pesticides on a lot of even organic food. Sometimes there's I don't know if it's blowing in the wind or what it is, or just residues from past crops being fertilized and using pesticides. But you get residues of pesticides even on organic foods in pretty high quantity.
Wow.
Not as high quantity as non-organic foods, but it's there. Also, the nutrients in the soil just isn't the same as it was because the soil's being used so many times to grow mass amounts of crops. So the vegetables that you eat are not as high in magnesium and iron and other nutrients as they used to be. So supplementation kind of has to be a part of the modern diet if you really want to achieve what they achieved in Paleolithic or ancient times.
That would be hard. Can you imagine having to hunt and grow everything that you ate? That's a hard life.
But that's your job.
My grandparents grew everything they ate.
Really?
They were farmers. And I do remember that growing up, going to Grandma's house, and everything was literally fresh picked, either that day or the day before.
Wow.
But the economy's not the same. Their their entire day's work, that's all they had to do was gather food to eat. They didn't have to go out and work 8-hour jobs or like you, a 10-hour job every day to do other things with their money. They just had to gather food. That's just what they did.
Yeah. And then if they wanted a chicken, we're not going to, what they did. You know what my grandpa did? Went out to the back and got the chicken.
Yikes.
He opened the package of chicken.
Yeah, he took it out of the freezer in the barn. Hey, real quickly, though, those diets that you just mentioned, all of them are supported by the convenience of having a bar. The Paleo bar, the Atkins has a protein bar, whatnot.
The South Beach bars, the Zone bars.
Are they... Well, it's hard for you to say because you're not looking at the label, but I mean, better bad choice than some of the...
Not in all cases. Or
are they pretty much the same?
Some of the bars, what you need to look at in a bar is what type of protein they're using. If they're using soy protein as the primary protein, just put it back. Don't use it. They need to be using either like a fortified pea protein or rice protein, or preferably a whey protein if you're not dairy intolerant. Those would be the best type of bars generally. And then look at the sweeteners. If there's acesulfame K and aspartame and sucralose and all those, put those back too. So it just depends what's in it.
Yeah, there's some really. I'm interested after the break to talk about the blood type diet, the tapeworm diet, the raw food diet, which I did like 6 months ago.
Diet.
Is that gross or what? Oh my gosh! You are listening to One Life Radio here on 1190 with Dr. Jeremy Webster. You can find him at CompleteHealthDallas.com. That's CompleteHealthDallas.com. 972-735-0707. We will be back right after the break. Let's talk about these diets. Let's talk about the blood type diet. What is that?
Well, there's a brilliant doctor, Peter D'Adamo, and I've listened to this guy speak. He probably maybe isn't the most interesting speaker I've ever heard, but probably is the most intelligent person I've ever heard speak. And
wow.
he wrote these books. They're I wish I had it in front of me. It's called Eat for Your Blood Type.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard of it before.
But the blood type diet. You can find it very easily if you just write blood type diet in Google, and he's going to be the first one that shows up. Peter D'Adamo. Anyway, he wrote these books based on some of his research, and his research wasn't just on looking at blood type and diet. It wasn't that simple. He was looking at all these immune factors. He studied the immune system of the body, and what he found through his research was that different blood types react differently as far as your immunity. Your immunity acts differently to different things based on your blood type, and it goes back to basically saying, okay, the original blood type was type O. That was the oldest. You talk about Paleolithic. That's type O. The caveman were type O's, and it wasn't until man spread throughout Europe, for example, and got into Europe, and then into Middle Asia, Southern Asia, India, Mongolia, those regions, that their blood type actually changed. Type A developed, and then type B developed.
Wow, that's so interesting.
Yeah, and they developed basically through normal evolution. They developed different traits because in Northern Europe, for instance, the food is not the same. What you have available to you is not the same as what was present in Africa. So you don't survive very well if you are genetically exactly the same as you were when you were in Africa. So the people who were able to mutate slightly or adapt were the people who survived best, and that's how these different type of blood types developed. And I think there's something to it. It's interesting that when I've been studying this, at first I thought it was kind of weird and maybe there wasn't that much to it until I really started looking into it with my patients. And I started being able to predict their blood type.
Really?
based on their traits and their characteristics of the person.
Physical traits or?
Physical traits, how they respond to stress, how they respond to different foods. You can almost predict what type of person
blood?
they are.
Okay, what's my blood?
Oh.
Do you know?
My first
Hot-blooded,
guess.
baby. You're hot-blooded.
Thank you, Danny.
My first guess would be maybe type O.
Oh, I am an O.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh. She's a type O.
I am an O. How did
Okay.
you know?
Typos tend to be very driven.
Ah.
They grew up in the harshest environments. That was the most difficult. They had to be very aggressive.
That would be me.
They had to be go-getters.
Wow.
The type A personalities are typically type O bloods.
Wow.
So this is like brain coding, what Kip does, almost.
Blood coding.
Yeah.
Am I an O negative or an O positive?
I don't know the difference between that as far as traits go. But a 50-50 chance negative. I'm just kidding.
Oh my
I'm
gosh,
not going to
that's
ask
funny.
you mine because well, no, I don't know mine. So tell me.
you should
Tell me
know.
what mine is. I know I should know, but yeah.
Well, I don't know, Danny. Type A people tend to respond worse to stress than others.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the main thing that you want to focus on if you're type A is things to maintain proper cortisol levels. So if a type A person would do very poorly on sugar, caffeine, alcohol, things that cause their sugar to swing and therefore their cortisol levels to swing. They do very well on a more stable diet. Type A people do very well on eating regular meals, eating plenty of protein in the morning to get their blood sugar stable. You don't necessarily have to do that as much if you're type O, for instance. What you need to do in type O is a little bit different. And type B seems to have this immune system that reacts to a lot of different foods. So they tend to do very poorly on wheat, tomatoes, chickpeas, legumes.
I should
foods
know
like
this,
that.
but how many blood types are there?
Well, basically, there's just A, B, and O.
Okay,
But
and
there's
then
different-
positive and negative.
There's
and,
different
okay.
combinations. You could be AB, you could be O negative, O
Well,
positive.
What
it
is the
kind of makes
rarest?
sense when you think about it. It really does. It makes sense that
It does, absolutely. And you can get a lot deeper into this. You can do genetic testing and look at a lot of different genes, and then that can kind of place you in different geographical regions as far as your ancestry goes, and you can get a lot of the same. You can deduce a lot of the same things. If your ancestry is all from Northern Europe, you're probably going to do well on the foods that are native to Northern Europe. If you're black and all of your parents and grandparents and ancestors are black, and so you're definitely from Africa, you probably do best on the foods that are native to Africa.
so your health would be better. You're more what do I want?
I would say compatible, I think, is what you're compatible to those type of foods.
You're less likely to be unhealthy. You're less likely to be overweight if you're on the
I just
eating
saw
the
something.
proper.
That's why when I go to a Chinese buffet, I see really fat Americans, but you go over to China and everybody's skinny. Is that what you get?
That's because they're working their
They're
what's
used to-
off.
Yeah, they're used to eating rice, and we eat rice as a
and
we get fat.
And they're working hard making
No,
all
but,
the stuff we used to.
I'm
in
joking
America-
about it, but is that kind of what you're saying?
And in America, you see a lot more fat Asians than you do in Asia.
Yeah. I mean, that's so.
When Asians come to America, they tend to adopt some of our eating habits, and they don't do so well. It's not their genetics is better for weight. It's their genetics are more appropriate for their geographical region of food, the type of food that they eat.
That is so interesting. Seriously, it's one of those things where it totally makes sense, but it's one of those things that you would never think about.
One other tidbit to tell you how powerful this is. Type O individuals have this enzyme that runs to excess typically, and what it does is they convert dopamine, which is just your calming, feel-good chemical. They convert that chemical into adrenaline faster than other blood types. So the type O person tends to get wired quickly and have issues where they need to do things. Oftentimes substance abuse is very common in a type O person because they need to get that fix, that dopamine fix.
Wow.
So marijuana usage, alcohol usage, other drug usage is not uncommon in a type O individual. So what you can do, you can take a nutrient called pantethine, which is it's a metabolite of a B vitamin, and that slows down that process. So you tend to have less adrenaline, less anxiety, and you tend to make and hold on to your dopamine a little bit better.
Hey,
so it tends to stabilize your mood.
Just say no. Just say no, Bernie.
You've been cracking me up.
Hey, just say no. Yadder, hey, dear, sure.
Oh my gosh,
that makes sense.
That's funny stuff.
So the applications are really broad when you really dig deep into this, and it's helpful. I've started testing ABO on all my patients.
It'd be
lately.
really interesting to see the percentage of addicts. And I'm not just saying, full-blown heroin addicts out there, but people that are addicted to either cigarettes or semi-alcoholics, whatnot. It'd be really interesting the percentage breakdown of what blood type they are.
And there are correlations to type O's with that, and there are also correlations with type O's to very high positions of power because they're very driven. Yeah. Bernie, you're driven. You do well in business. You do well in business.
Yeah,
because of that.
I have trouble sitting still for sure.
And that's a piece of your genetic makeup that makes you successful in business.
So what is the diet? Yeah, we went off on this, but we never did get to the blood diet.
Type O, well, the blood type diet is eat appropriate for your blood type.
So
so type O would be Paleolithic.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
That's very appropriate for that type of person. I mean, I mentioned type Bs, avoiding a lot of the lectin food, the wheats, the tomatoes, the legumes, I even wrote a few of these down. Peanut, sesame, chicken, even for type B, doesn't seem to be compatible with their blood type.
Wow.
And then type A, the most important thing for type A is do things to keep your cortisol levels in check, balance the blood sugar, avoid alcohol and sugar and caffeine, things like that.
Wow. Well, you have been listening to the brilliant Dr. Jeremy Webster. I never get tired of listening to you. You can find him at CompleteHealthDallas.com. That's CompleteHealthDallas.com. 972-735-0707. 972-735-0707. Danny, I think I need to come in there and give you a pinch. We'll be back right after the break.
Oh, don't tease me. Oh.
You are listening to One Life Radio here on 1190. Danny, you do such an awesome job with the music. You should come and have at my house and have a party and be my DJ.
Well,
and drink some pumpkin ale.
Okay.
Play some beer pong.
I've got a new nickname for you, though.
What is it?
It's the big.
I can hardly wait.
It's the Big O.
Oh well, that suits me perfectly.
Big O.
That suits me perfectly
The
on
Big O.
so many levels. I can't even tell you. All right. Danny, what are we going to do with ourselves?
Type O.
Type O, that's me. Mm-hmm. Yep. That explains it. Explains my whole life in a nutshell. Type O, there you go.
It's that simple.
It's that simple.
It's that simple.
All right.
So
okay.
what are the ones that we have there?
What are other ones? We got what about this tapeworm diet? That's the most insane thing I've ever read. I mean, the tapeworm diet?
The problem is I thought it was a joke. I thought it was a joke, but except when I was trying to make this list and looking at the top 10 fad diets out there, top 10 gimmick diets, it kept showing up. So I've been looking into it a little bit closer. I haven't done a lot of research on it, but it looks like it's actually real.
Seriously, in what country? Where in the world would anyone? So they would ingest a tapeworm diet into their body.
So it's not just a play on words. It literally is.
The human environment, the gastrointestinal system is full of different kind of bugs. It's full of bacteria, yeast, lots of stuff, and it actually they kind of have a symbiotic relationship with us and our immune system. The truth is, we are not to the point yet in human evolution where we don't typically have some of these worms in our system.
Well,
crazy.
I know. I've
been accused when I was
It's
a kid.
gross.
What do you have, a tapeworm?
It's
I know
gross,
it.
and
The old saying.
Yeah.
and it's hard to believe, but
Wow, it's out
there might be a little bit of scientific merit to this. I'm not at all advising this at this
No.
point.
Okay, so
I
first
just
of all,
want
so
people to
where
be
does
aware
someone
of it.
find a tapeworm? Hey, I'm going to go find a tapeworm. Where do you find a tapeworm,
I
first
don't know,
of all?
Mexico?
So you go look for tapeworms, and then you ingest one,
Supposedly, yeah.
swallow it with a glass of water, and
Wow.
let it do its work? Wow.
I haven't looked into it deep enough to really know how to
Well, what
execute the diet.
That's
Because-
and what
yeah,
about
that's
all the
I'm not-
nutrients? The tapeworm would eat all your nutrients.
True, maybe to a point, yes, but it also might normalize your immune system to some degree.
Really?
Maybe.
I guess it's really no different than how some doctors use leeches to
it's a little different
do
than
it.
that.
No, but I'm just saying, same type of philosophy.
I'm
where
not
they,
eating a tapeworm
I don't
ever.
know,
I
but
would say it's closer to this.
That's so gross.
You take probiotics. Probiotics are very common in the nutraceutical realm today,
I do.
in nutrition circles.
Absolutely.
They are bacteria.
Yes.
So we're ingesting this bacteria
Did it this
to
morning.
help normalize our gastrointestinal balance. Maybe there's something to ingesting worms to help our gastrointestinal system and our immune system. I don't know. I'm not advising it at this
Never
point
say
at all.
never, right?
I've been in the rainforest numerous times in Nicaragua, and if there's a cure, it's in the rainforest. And I do believe that there's a cure for everything. And it's usually, those witch doctors, those Native Indians, in the rainforest. It's absolutely amazing. I had a friend that went down there. He literally went to 2-3 different doctors here for a couple of years. Could not speak. And he speaks for a living, not on the radio, but he was a public speaker. Well, it turned out that he went to this, what do you call it? A shaman?
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 Sharma?
Went to one of those down in the jungle, put this paste on for like 3 days, had to keep it around, and drank this awful stuff, he said. Wouldn't you know it? It cleared up.
Wow.
Okay.
His vocal cords were cleared up, and and that was like, 6-7 years ago, and to this day, he's fine.
Wow.
So
I think we fall into a trap, though. I'm gonna argue with you just a little bit, Danny. I'm not saying that you're completely wrong. I would say that you're partially wrong, because I think we fall into this trap that ever since Fleming discovered penicillin, and he cured. I mean, it did cure bacterial infections for the most part. Ever since then, we've fallen into the same trap of thinking disease or dis-ease or poor health is this idea that we've got something in us that we need to get rid of. Cancer, for instance, that's the mindset in cancer. Is we've got something in us, and if we could just get rid of it, then everything would be good. And I would argue that that's not the case at all. In cancer, yes, you do have a tumor in you, but it's not that you caught something. You got this cancer and it started to grow in you. What happened is your body is to the point where you're so unhealthy that cancer is able to grow in you. You remove the cancer tumor, usually it comes back. That's the problem. So it's not a matter of getting the bad stuff out of you. It's a matter of, in some cases, in some types of diseases and illnesses, it's a matter of your body needs to become healthy again. You may be deficient in nutrients. You may be toxic. You may be just, there might be a lot of different types of problems. And it's not necessarily just get something out of you. If it's an infection, I agree with you. There probably are good plant remedies for yeast infections, bacterial infections, viral infections, parasitic infections. But that's when something's in you that's not supposed to be in you and needs to be killed or removed from your body. So in those cases, yes, I think you're right.
Well, don't get me wrong. I'm not total holistic here. I mean, if there's a pill that I could take that will make me feel better, no, I'm going that route.
Yes, we know that from your workout pills. Shake your bottle, Danny. Go ahead. Is it right there with you?
Yeah, it is. It's, I'll have it. But no, I mean, I wasn't. I know that not everything could be cured, but it's amazing though. It's amazing how, it's amazing how the native Indians down there, their life expectancy is still only in their 40s, but it's not because of their health.
Right.
It's because
Absolutely
of, getting hit with by a snake or, basic, crocodile or caiman or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
But it's amazing that when you go down there and here is, they're in sandals and they're literally living in huts.
Sure.
First thing they do when they smile, there's no toothpaste, there's no dentist. First thing you notice when they smile, the whitest teeth.
Yeah.
The absolute whitest teeth.
Because they don't eat processed food.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, it makes a big
everything is
difference.
literally they're eating from the land.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, real quickly, I was out of water, and I didn't want to drink any more beer. Yeah, I was drinking beer. And one of the Indians I was with is like, gosh, I'm thirsty. Do you have any more water? It's like, here. Takes a root or, one of the vines, takes a machete, slices it in half. Here, put your lips around this. It was the cleanest water that you would ever taste.
Wow.
It was coming right from in the middle of in the vine.
Wow.
It was awesome.
Where was this exactly?
It was in Nicaragua.
Nicaragua.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
What brought you down there?
It's a long story.
Oh, it's a long story.
I went down there, 5 times.
Were you in love with a Nicaraguan woman, Danny?
Costa Rica.
Oh, okay. Well,
Costa Rican.
It's always a guy or a girl,
no, I had
isn't
nothing
it?
to do with that, though. I mean, for my trips down there. No, we
That's
went.
funny.
It was a hunting and fishing, trip, and it was just it was great. It really was great.
Sounds good.
I tell you what, it really did educate me on, other cultures and how other people live. For us, it was great from, the knowledge. I'm looking at these people going, wow, this is great. You don't have a care in the world and this and that. And here in the States, we stress about the simplest thing about being late for something.
Yeah.
But you want to know something? After about 10 days, I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go back to being stressed about
Really?
stupid stuff.
You didn't handle the chill.
Yeah.
Wow.
So tell me, did the water from the vine hydrate you pretty well?
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
I bet more than a glass of water would.
Yeah. It was funny because water has no taste. Not true. There was just something about that. It's kind of like when you drink well water. When I was a kid, I tell you about my grandparents, being farmers, they had well water. It was so crisp. It had a different taste to it.
That's the fertilizer.
Well, tell me if this is true, Dr. Webster. I read somewhere a couple of months ago that you can use coconut in third world countries. In third world countries, they use coconut water as blood plasma.
Yeah, they even used it in World War II.
Wow.
When we went over and we're moving toward Japan, we got through Okinawa. It was such a bloody battle that we ran out of blood, and so we started using coconuts to infuse, do blood transfusions.
Right, to do blood
because-
transfusions.
Really?
Yes, isn't that fascinating? All right. Let's talk about the next fad diet that we didn't get to last week.
I like that negative calorie diet. I want to hear.
You want to talk about the negative calorie diet?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, this one's kind of silly. It's another one of those thumbs down
They're
diets.
all silly.
Well, some of them are actually pretty good. We covered some good ones.
We covered some
last
good
week.
ones.
Or actually Tuesday, we covered some that we gave the thumbs up to. Negative calorie diet. It's based on the false theory that you can eat foods that make you burn more calories than you are consuming. You've heard
Because of the effort in chewing
you've heard
and
the old
digesting.
idea that when you chew celery, you burn more calories than you chew. That's what this whole thing is based on. Is just eat a lot of that stuff, and you'll eventually get full, and you'll burn more calories than you consume. So you kind of go into calorie debt.
Is that kind of like grapefruit diet is kind of the same?
Not really.
No, because
Not really.
I know it has a lot of enzymes.
Let's talk about Let's talk about it
separately.
Separately.
Okay. So,
but this one would be things like celery, foods that have a lot of water content.
Vegetables,
They
lots
take a
of,
lot of energy to chew, but
bell
they don't
peppers
have they don't
and-
have a lot of calories in them.
Right.
Problem is it doesn't really work. Those foods probably will help you lose weight. They're probably good healthy foods, but it's not even true that you consume less calories than you chew.
it's a diet for chewers.
So don't think that alone is going to work. Now these are good low calorie healthy foods. They're loaded with nutrients, so they can be a part of a good diet. But the diet itself is a little bit
that
flawed in
limits
theory.
you because there's not a whole. I mean, you'd be limited to celery and lettuce,
And you
leaves,
don't want to do that.
and
That would be
cabbage
a good
and
way.
bell pepper. Good way to get malnutrition and
Yes,
sick.
you would eventually ruin your metabolism because you wouldn't have the amino acids or the essential fats that your body needs.
Which, bottom line, people, is when you do these crazy diets, they all ruin your metabolism. That's why you have yo-yo dieters that they can't seem to, look at Oprah Winfrey. It's up and down. She's up, she's down. And you create this pattern that you can't get out of. It's very difficult to break a cycle that you've put yourself in over the years of gaining a lot of weight, then losing a lot of weight, and then gaining a lot of weight, and then losing because the metabolism just gets ruined.
You're right.
Right, what's the next diet? You want to talk about the grapefruit diet?
Grapefruit diet, yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
There's a little bit to the grapefruit diet actually. There are properties, there are compounds in the grapefruit that actually can improve your metabolism, speed your metabolism up. So it's one of those things that if you want to incorporate grapefruit into your diet, I think it's probably a pretty smart thing. The interesting thing about grapefruit, there's also some compounds that boost detoxification. And this is a really broad a boost of as far as the type of chemicals that you can detoxify. So it's just kind of a broad detoxifier. It's grapefruit itself isn't binding and removing toxins, but it increases your body's natural enzymes that detoxify yourself. So you can clear out a lot of different potential toxins or chemicals if you eat a lot of grapefruit. And in fact, a lot of your medications, on the warning label of your medications, it says don't take grapefruit. Because if you do, the grapefruit makes you clear the medication too quickly and you don't get any good out of your medication.
Oh, wow.
So
because it's a very broad detoxifier.
I am so excited because, when I make my mimosa, instead of orange juice in it, I put grapefruit juice.
All right.
And I was just thinking
Make
about
that drink healthy.
I'm detoxifying myself as I'm toxifying myself.
Yeah, there you go.
Detox and retox all at the same time.
When I come over on Thanksgiving, I'll bring my little juicer, my commercial juicer, and we'll juice the heck out of
We have a juicer.
grapefruit. Oh, you do?
Yeah, Mike bought one. Remember?
No,
he
this
used
is
it
like
for a week.
where you put it's got the the attachment on the top.
A miniature
no, this
juicer.
is like a like
the little thing that squishes the grapefruit down.
Yeah, it's got a little press. It's cool. Yeah, you put that on there. You cut it in half, put it on there, and slap it down. Yeah. We're gonna have a lot of fun. Yeah, you got a basketball court at your house so we can get some exercise.
Bernadette just told me she has a 25-pound turkey, so I invited her to come over as long as she cooks the turkey.
And brings 2 bottles of wine minimum.
Yeah,
two bottles of wine
minimum. Maybe some cigars.
That's a minimum.
Oh yeah,
Not
some
for
cigars.
me, but Mike would love it.
Yeah.
Hey, it's holiday. You guys celebrate one day, and then you get to celebrate another day, and then another day.
Yep.
So
Christmas
Danny,
and then New Year's Eve.
thumbs up on the grapefruit diet.
Yep.
Oh. I mean, that's something that's been around
Yeah.
since, at least the 70s.
Yeah,
But
you were asking about that.
so you just eat a lot of grapefruits, but
Well,
you're eating
okay.
other foods. I mean,
This
I
is
don't want
what else
people
I
to
have to
think
say.
that you just eat grapefruits all day long.
That's the point of what I was going to say. Grapefruit itself does have some really nice properties, so use that as part of an overall balanced diet. Don't do the grapefruit diet where you're primarily surviving on grapefruits.
Yeah,
that's silly.
that's
That's
not
not
good.
sustainable, and that eventually will ruin your metabolism as well.
Right.
But yeah, as a piece of a diet, grapefruit is great.
Thank you for listening to One Life Radio here on 1190. Dr. Webster, thank you for joining us. You can reach Jeremy at CompleteHealthDallas.com, 972-735-0707. That's CompleteHealthDallas.com, 972-735-0707. Thank you for listening. This is One Life Radio. You get one body, one mind, one life. Take care of it.
One love, we get to share it. Leaves you